and welcome back to Baron's Den for a late night roster change. And I thought I'd do the Skaven. So this one is going to be different to the others because this one is not going to agree with the general consensus. I think people don't watch all these different kind of roster videos expecting necessarily to see the same opinion. Every now and then they're going to want to see a differing opinion, and I think it's important that if you have an opinion that you share it and you don't feel like you have to conform to what the majority is saying. We're still early days. No one really knows for sure how all of the rosters are going to pan out, and we can have a good idea. And some people might be bang on with their initial assessments, but every now and then people are going to get it wrong. I'm going to share with you my opinion of Skaven now, and it's going to differ to what a lot of people are saying. So just bear that in mind. It is my opinion. I'm entitled to it, and you may disagree with it, and that's fine as well. But just be aware that I'm under no illusions that I am in the minority here. But we already live in a world where people are so easily influenced by others, and that includes me. Sometimes when I go and watch something, I'll think, hang on, is the idea I've got in my head my own, or is it just because someone's told it me? So the idea of this is how I genuinely feel about Skaven. I am a bit of a fanboy. I may have bias, and I'm certainly biased by my own experience of playing them. But that doesn't mean that I'll necessarily be wrong. So just bear that all in mind when you're watching this one through, and also know that there's going to be a ton of other content out there contradicting what I'm about to say. Okay, right, let's crack on with Skaven. My original favourite team. Now I started playing Skaven. I reckon it was after I had my initial couple of years with Orcs. So it'd have been about 1998, I think. I switched to Skaven, and I just didn't look back all the way till Blood Bowl 2020. Even taking them to a few tournaments up to about the 2022. And the only reason I stopped playing Skaven is because I'd played them to death, and I had noticed that, particularly with Blood Bowl 3 coming out, that there was an influx of bash teams. There was loads of people running the bash meta, and I think I just got tired of it playing Skaven. I was tired of seeing half my team getting wiped out, even if I'd end up winning the game, and I just fancied a bit of a change. And I haven't actually gone back to them yet, but this new edition has made me think I need to go and revisit Skaven and get my love for them back. I'd probably say they're my third favourite team, along with Norse and Necro, but they were my favourite for about, well, not quite 30 years, but almost 30 years. Played them to death on Blood Bowl 1 and 2. Anyway, so let's see what's changed. Right, starting with Skaven Line Rats. They've still movement 7, strength 3, edge 3+, passing 4+, armor 8+. They're 50k. They've got general, and now they have devious access as well, which is really good. And it's very Skaven, so I'm glad they got devious on primary. Still have mutations on secondary, which is fine, along with agility and strength. They've got no skills. They're just clan rats. The Skaven linemen, they haven't got any worse. In fact, if anything, they've got a little bit better because now they've got access to that fouling meta that other teams now are kind of locked out of a little bit. Yes, Sneaky Git isn't as good as it used to be. That is true. But it's still going to be useful on a player that you know is going to foul because it protects them from getting sent off when they haven't even broken armour. So it's still, I don't think it's a useless skill now. And certainly if you're going to be... I keep saying this. I was about to say if you random it, but you're not going to get the skill for half price, so you won't be randoming it. But it might be one that you do if you have one person in mind who's just going to keep putting the boot in. You might want to give them Sneaky Git. And Skaven linemen, they're such low cost, and they've got such short lifespans that they're ideal to be throwing into fouls. So nothing but good on that, I think. Okay, the Skaven thrower. So this guy has improved as well because his stat line's exactly the same. Movement 7, strength 3, edge 3+, passing 2+, armor 8+. His cost has gone down. He's now 80k. I believe, was he 85? Or was he even more than that? I am flicking through a book whilst I'm talking to you. He was 85, yeah, so he's dropped by 5k. He's still general and passing. But look at this. Strength, devious, mutation, and agility on secondary. I mean, you might not touch the secondary skills, but it's just nice to know that this player can have a bit of everything, can't he? What a legend. Pass and sure hands are his skills. The Skaven thrower is still, in my opinion, one of the most underrated players. I think a lot of other long-time Skaven players would ignore the thrower and stick with gutter runners when you could have 4. Um, a lot of people did recognise that it is one of the best throwers in the game, and particularly with the human thrower dropping to passing 3+, it must they must stick in their, what's the phrase? It must bother them that the Skaven thrower is a better thrower now than the human one, and it's retained its passing 2+. So, which is it needs to, given what we're about to discover later on. But on the whole, it is a slight improvement because it's a bit cheaper and it's got a bit of devious access. Not really significantly better, but just a teeny tiny bit. The Skaven Blitzer, now this guy has improved quite a bit. So he's now movement 8. I think we need to appreciate that is good for the Skaven Blitzer. A lot of people, because of the negative we're going to see coming up in a minute, have completely disregarded that movement upgrade as if it's nothing. That is significant. Any movement beyond, I think, movement 6, it just starts to get better and better because you can be scoring with secure the ball as well. You can be scoring with this guy. That's going to help him get star player points, and having that extra movement means that he can score from further out. But also, he's got strip ball. He can track back, and that little extra pace is going to really help him. He's passing 4+ now. That's not as important because you're not going to be passing with the blitzer unless he might be the only player who can during a drive, and then you'll be glad of it that he's able to even try. He's got devious on secondary. Again, you probably aren't going to be touching too much in there because you'll be focusing on the general and the strength. And he's got blocking, he's got strip ball now. Again, people disregarding this, saying, oh yeah, well, the blitzer doesn't get into the cage anyway. So how is he going to utilise his strip ball on the opposition ball carrier? And it almost seems like people are misremembering and thinking that gutter runners just did it automatically, and they didn't. If it's a good cage, you are looking at what 5+ dodging, which with a reroll is possible, but it's certainly not guaranteed anyway. So the reliance on a gutter runner cage dive, I think, was not necessarily an optimum strategy to go for. So if you can remove a corner of the cage, start basing up other corners, screening off the support of the other team, you might be able to get a blitzer in and get a blitz, particularly if somebody else tries to dodge out and it causes a turnover and you have a run on the ball. You are going to be glad of this strip ball then. So yes, it's not the greatest upgrade. It's not as good as the Orcs break tackle or the humans tackle, but it's still going to come in, and I think it's very thematic for Skaven as well, stealing the ball away from you. It's just very Skaven. So yeah, it would be nice on the gutter runners, because they're the kind of players who'll be able to get into the cage and use it a little easier. But there's going to be plenty of times, I think, when the blitzer can use it as well. So I see it as a boon. All right, we're here. Let's discuss it. Gutter runners. Oh, I've forgotten to put it in red. That's quite ironic, given what I'm about to say about them. So yeah, the gutter runners have gone from 0 to 4 down to 0 to 2. So you've lost 2 gutter runners, and oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. It's the end of the world for the Skaven players. The team is trash. And it was really interesting in a Warhammer community article. The guy who was talking about which changes he's looking forward to, and he mentioned Skaven. He said, "Oh, I only ever run 2 gutter runners anyway." To which a lot of people on Blood Bowl community were mocking him for and saying, "Oh yeah, you're going to say that, aren't you?" Well, let me tell you, for many years, I only ever ran 2 gutter runners, and that's a fact. That is actual fact, and that's because when I was a younger lad, I just bought a box set and used the models that I got. And I also got a Rat Ogre from Warhammer Fantasy 4th or 5th edition. Probably 4th edition, actually, a metal one, who is still my Rat Ogre to this day, the only surviving member of that original team that I had. So I had no choice but to run 2 gutter runners. And I have done for most of my time. Yes, when I got Blood Bowl 1 and 2, of course, you're going to use the extra tools that you're available to you, so you are going to use 4. But I'd always build my team around that starting 11 of having the Rat Ogre and only 2 gutters. I'd all utilise the thrower. People used to ignore the thrower, and I did all right. I've taken the 2 gutter runner Rat Ogre build to tournaments and done well. Like I say, I often start off league or a ladder with 2 gutters and a Rat Ogre, and I only need 2 gutter runners, if I'm honest. Yes, it is better to have more, but I don't need them. And I think Skaven are going to be fine without them. I think it's just going to take some players time to get used to that. I'm looking at it that we were spoiled having 4, and now we just got to get on with it. We've only got 2. They're still some of the best players in the game, and we've just got to take better care of the ones that we have. We're not going to be able to build all the different variants of gutter runners. So you got your ball carrying gutter runner, your ball hawk gutter runner, your I'm going to stick to you with diving tackle and annoy you gutter runner. You had the cage diving gutter runner, the one turning gutter runner. There's all these different builds. You're not going to have them all now, so you've got to pick which ones are the most vital to you and utilise your thrower and your blitzers more. But that's fine. That's what I used to do, and that is the honest truth. I think it was Beachhead 2022. I took the 2 gutter rat ogre build. I did manage to get Glart smash rip in because I think then you could use a star player as within your 11 players, so I was able to afford the rat ogre, Glart, and 2 gutters. That's possibly the reason why I took that. But I had a great old time. I won my first 2 games and only lost the final game because I was playing a slan team that I'd just not had much experience of playing, and I kept getting into sticky situations with the slan blitzers diving tackle. And I was playing a very good opponent as well, I will add. He was an excellent coach, and he knew how to play slan, and I was out of my depth, really. But other than that game, I coped really well with just having 2 gutters. So, this is me saying now, the whole fact that you've dropped 2 gutter runners will take coaches some getting used to. There's going to be some Skaven coaches that will never get used to it because they can't cope with it because they're so used to bossing the field with their 4 gutters. And they'll be lost without the extra 2. But I think for the majority of coaches, they'll adapt. And are Skaven worse off for it? Of course they'll be worse off for having 2 less of their best players. But there are parts of the team that have been improved. And the other thing is, when you've got gutter runners on the field, you are lower on strength generally. And so you have got to be careful with them. If you come up against a team with lots of tackle, you are then going to be at threat of having these gutter runners stomped into the ground. So by only having 2, it'll be easier to look after the gutter runners. It might mean that you play them on both offense and defense, not being able to bench them as often, and they're just going to have to work harder because those 2 gutter runners are going to be carrying the job of formerly of 4. So anyway, that's enough of my personal feelings on the 2 gutter runners. Let's talk about what else has improved about them. Well, they've got devious access on primary. They're not going to be doing a lot of fouling as such, but they do have something else that might tie in quite well. At least they've got stab now, so stab's going to be really useful for them. They've also got agility access, which means they can get hit and run. So they're only 1 skill away from becoming a dark elf assassin, and they've got 2 extra squares of movement. And if you can use hit and run as well, if you're doing it with stab, it's not going to buy you a movement because you don't push anyone away. I suppose you would still bounce 1, wouldn't you? I suppose it takes 1 movement to. No, it would take 1 movement to do the stab, so you're not necessarily gaining a place, but it does mean that you can use it to bounce off somebody, or you could. It helps mitigate from the fact that if you're blitzing through a back line, for example, if you're going for a 1-turner, instead of having to put horns on it to try and strength 3 blitz through, you can just go straight to stab, and okay, you're at the mercy of an armor roll. It depends who you're playing against. If you've got a dwarf backline or an orc backline, you might think it's not worth it, but if it's wood elves, give them a stab. You've got a reasonable chance of breaking through. And also shadowing is devious, and shadowing isn't as good on a gutter run, I suppose, now. Now it's just a flat 4+, but it's not at the end of the world if you were to random it, I suppose. So yeah, having devious, it's not the best, but it's not terrible. And stab is going to be really useful. So your cage diving, I was just talking about your blitzer. If you did want to have a go with your gutter runner, if you can get your gutter runner into the cage, the stab's a great idea because you don't have to worry about block or dodge or sure hands. You are just going to stab that guy and or girl, and if you break the armor, that ball's popping out. So I think the gutter runner is better. It's just a case of whether you can cope with losing 2 of them. Rat Ogre, pretty much the same. It can now pass the ball. I've said that on quite a few videos. It's never really going to come into it unless he's the only player in range of the ball, and you need to hoof it down the other end of the pitch to score a touchdown, maybe, or to clear it out of your defence. You never know, but it certainly doesn't make it any worse. Other than that, he's pretty much the same. Still strength 5, still got his animal savagery, his mighty blow. He's very useful prehensile tail, blah blah blah, all very similar and familiar. So additional rules, they are 60k rerolls, which I think is the same as what it was before. Underworld Challenge, which is the same as what they were before, and they can still have an Apo. So, on to the pros and cons. Yes, loss of 2 gutter runners is the big headline news for the cons, but after that, there's not a lot really that's gone down about them. Just perhaps a loss of passing secondary access on the gutter runner, and like I said before, it's probably only nerves of steel and on the ball you'd really be considering from the passing tree anyway for the gutter runner. And it's not the end of the world that they haven't got access to those. There's plenty of other things you will want to put on the gutter runner anyway. But what about the pros? Well, we've got a movement 8 strip ball blitzer with improved passing. Whether you like strip ball or the movement 8 or not, you cannot deny that hasn't made it better, at least, for no extra cost. There's been a slight decrease in price for the thrower. It's not going to change the world, but it does mean you'll be able to squeeze something else in instead at some point. Primary devious access for clan rats and gutters means you can get stuck into that fouling game with some of those new devious skills, but also your classic dirty players, your sneaky gits. It's still going to be useful for those players. And there's one, what's it called? The one where you can get star player points for the special action. Does stab count as a special action? Because if it does, you might be able to accrue star player points by going up and stabbing and killing people. I can't remember what it's called now. It's not Violent Innovator, is it? That's the one with the secret weapons. Anyway, there is one that's to do with getting star player points on a special action. Or maybe it is Violent Innovator. But yeah, so that's going to be useful for leveling those players up. The Ratto can throw now. It's not a big deal, but it's there. It is an improvement. And finally, you've got throwers, line rats, and blitzers can all secure the ball because of the new secure the ball rule, which means that, I mean, the gutter runner can do it as well, but the gutter runner doesn't need to do it because it can already pick up on 2+. These players can also now do it on a 2+. So it means that if you want to stick the ball straight on a blitzer, you can. If you want a thrower to go and secure the ball and have your gutter runners run on, you can. There's lots of options there. So, why is this controversial? Because I'm actually going to say that the Skaven team isn't dropping like everyone else is. I don't think I can't hand on heart say it's got better, but for me, for the way I play Skaven, particularly early on, they have got better because I'd only be running 2 gutter runners anyway. So if you take that out of the equation, all of a sudden I've just lost passing secondary access on a gutter and I've gained all this. So yeah, I do not see this as the big deal that a lot of other people do see it as. Now I know that the majority of people don't agree with me, and that's fine. But we'll see in time. Maybe Skaven will be decimated into oblivion and no one will run them, and in the end they'll even have to be FAQ'd because they'll be so useless. But I don't believe it. Don't believe it for a second. I think good Skaven coaches will still be brilliant with them, and I think new coaches to Skaven will still find that they can be very, very good. They're very, very quick. They've got surprising punch now with the Rat Ogre and the Blitzers and the fouling side of the game. That Skaven are going to be as good as, and if not better than, a lot of other teams at. So they've even got a chance to get a bit of removal, and you don't want to have pieces removed against Skaven because they're already overwhelmingly quick. So if they can start rounding you up and screening off the few players that you've got left, they're just going to be able to dictate what's going on. You have got to be careful with Skaven. You can't, every time you mark someone, you've got to be aware that if you get punched back, that player's probably not getting up again. So you've got to be careful. They're not a beginner team, I don't think. Not if you're in a Bashir meta, anyway. But I do think they'll be. I think they'll be all right. So yes, if this was not me, this arrow would be pointing down. So I want to be clear about that. The good proportion of the community believes Skaven have got worse because of losing the gutters. I don't, so I just wanted to be clear about that. So that's where I'd put them. Obviously, out of all these 4 teams, I'd probably put them at the the bottom end of they're just about as good as they were. But yeah, I just that's what I think. Obviously, if it was up to me, I'd put them here because if I'm only running two gutters anyway, they have got better for me. But I accept that for some people they'd be here because they're used to run those four gutters and it's going to really hurt them, which is why I've evened it out to here. Um, I will brace myself for the comments. But anyway, sometimes you want to hear a different alternative opinion, and mine is based on experience. It's not just me being a Skaven fanboy thinking, no, the Skaven will be fine. This is based on the fact that that's how I used to run them. It has to be said that a lot of that was in pre-Blood Bowl 2020, in the Living Rulebook CRP 2016 era and the Blood Bowl 1 and 2 era. Well, not so much on those games because obviously I'd play enough games that I'd end up being able to buy all four Gutter Runners and the Rat Ogre. But that's where I stand on it. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that more controversial one. Apologies if you think I'm a raving lunatic and I don't know what I'm talking about. That's fine. I don't mind that either. I think we'll do a happier one next one. I think we'll do goblins because I think goblins are in a good place going into this edition. So let's have a bit of a chat about that one next. Please like and subscribe, even if you disagree with everything I've just said. It's okay, it creates healthy debate when we all don't agree. And yeah, I'll see you on the next video. Thank you very much. Bye for now.